Huwag mong pagsilbihan yan. Don't serve that one. Dante Marquez said it the way he said most things, with his back half turned and his voice pitched just low enough to sound like a reasonable instruction rather than what it was. He was standing behind the glass display case, pretending to rearrange the viands, when the old man came through the door of Kuya's Carinderia on a Thursday afternoon and lowered himself into the plastic chair nearest the back wall. Nena Buenaventura looked at Dante. Then she looked at the man. He was 60-something, worn rubber slippers, a faded sando, a bucket hat with a sweat-stained brim, a canvas bag set against the leg of the chair that smelled faintly of engine oil even from 3 tables away. He had the hands of a man who had spent his life building things, wide, rough, with grease in the creases that no amount of washing entirely removes. He was looking at the hand-painted menu on the wall with the particular attention of a person reading prices, rather than dishes. After a long moment, he set the menu face down on the table. Nena picked up a plate. She turned to the display case. She spooned rice and paksel na bangis onto the plate with the efficient care of someone who has done this 10,000 times and still gives each serving the same attention as the first. She added a ladleful of sinigang broth in a separate bowl. She carried both to the man's table. He looked up at her, surprised. Hindi pa ako nag-order. I haven't ordered yet. Sobrang naluto ng kusina, Nena said simply. The kitchen made extra. Maubos lang. It will just go to waste. Dante was watching from the counter. His jaw tightened. His pen tapped the logbook he kept on the shelf behind the register. The logbook where he wrote everything, dates and times and infractions and warnings. The logbook that had become, over 3 years, the architecture of his authority in a place he did not own. The old man looked at the food. He looked at Nena. He picked up his spoon. He ate the way people eat when the body has been running on very little for a long time. Not fast, not desperate, but with a careful, concentrated reverence, as though the food might disappear if he moved wrong, like he was trying to make it last and trying to believe it was real, both at once. What nobody in Kuya's Carinderia knew, what Nena did not know, what Dante did not know, what the construction workers at the long table by the window did not know, was that the old man in the rubber slippers had built the building they were sitting in, and the 11 others like it. And much more than that, but we will get to that. Before we go deeper into this story, type 777 in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. If stories like this move you, stories about a woman who gave what she couldn't afford to give and what came back to her because of it, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You are going to want to stay until the very last minute. Nena Buenaventura had been waking at 4:30 in the morning for 4 years. Not because she wanted to. Because that was when Pio's medicine needed to be given, a small white tablet, half a glass of water, sit with him for 10 minutes to make sure it stayed down, and because if she was already up, she could pack his school bag and press his uniform and have rice on the stove before he woke, so that the morning felt, from the outside, like a morning that was under control. It was not always under control. Raul had died on a Tuesday in October, 4 years ago, of a stroke that arrived without warning in the middle of the night. He was 37 years old. He had been a mason, good at his work, reliable, the kind of man who showed up on time and did what he said, and came home smelling of cement and brought Pio a piece of scrap wood shaped like a boat when the job he was on finished. The boat was still on Pio's windowsill. Nena had moved it twice and always put it back. She had inherited, along with his absence, the debt on the apartment they had been renting to own in a small subdivision outside Batangas City. She had negotiated a lower monthly payment. She had taken the carinderia job 2 weeks after the funeral because Pio needed to eat, and she needed something to do before the grief found her sitting still. The carinderia job was not enough, and never had been, but it was constant. 6 days a week, 7 when someone called out, and constancy was a kind of safety when everything else had become unpredictable. Pio was 7 when his teacher told Nena, gently, in the particular careful voice of educators delivering news they know is not what a parent is hoping to hear, that he was struggling. Not with effort. He tried hard. Not with character. He was kind and curious and loved everything related to the sea. But something in the way information reached him was different from the way it reached the other children. He needed more time. He needed smaller groups. He needed a teacher who understood how to reach a child, whose mind worked in a longer, more circuitous route toward understanding. The specialist school in Batangas City had been recommended by 3 different people. Nena had looked at the enrollment form. The annual fee was 70,000 pesos. She had put the form in a folder behind the microwave, next to the apartment payment schedule and the electricity bills. She told Pio about it on a night when he was upset about a test he had not understood, and she was out of other things to say. She told him there was a school where the teachers had extra time for students who needed it, and that she was saving for it, and that she would get there. Pio had looked at her with the evaluating gaze of an 8-year-old who is smarter than people give him credit for. Matagal pa? How long will it take? Malapit na, she said. Soon, she did not know if this was true. She had 11,000 pesos in a tin can behind the rice cooker. She needed 70,000 for the enrollment, and more for the monthly tuition after. The math did not resolve into anything that looked like malapit na, but she had said it. So now she had to make it true. Kuya's Carinderia was on a commercial strip in Batangas City, wedged between a hardware supply store and a laundry shop. The sign above the door was hand-painted on a piece of marine plywood. Kuya's Carinderia, Lutong Bahay na Paikain. Home-cooked food. The letters had faded from red to orange from years of sun, and someone had repainted the word Kuya in a slightly different shade at some point. So the name was now 2 colors, which nobody had ever bothered to fix. Inside, 8 tables, plastic chairs, a ceiling fan that wobbled on every 3rd rotation with a sound like a card in a bicycle wheel. The glass display case held the viands of the day: paxo, pinakbet, adobo, a vegetable dish, soup in a large pot on the side. A hand-painted menu on the wall listed prices that had not changed in 2 years. It was the kind of place where construction workers ate lunch with their helmets on the chair beside them, where a group of market vendors took the long table by the window every morning for arroz caldo and coffee, where a retired schoolteacher named Mang Ernie came every day at 11:30 and ordered the same thing and talked to whoever would listen. It was not a fancy place. It was a real place. There is a difference, and the people who ate there knew it. Dante Marquez had been running the day-to-day operations for 3 years. He was 45, and he wore the authority of his position the way some people wear a uniform 2 sizes too large, aggressively, to compensate for the fit. He kept a logbook. He timed breaks. He docked pay for customer complaints regardless of whether the complaint was valid, and complaints were sometimes manufactured. A vague dissatisfaction communicated to Dante privately, which then became a line in the logbook under an employee's name. He was not technically the manager. The Carinderia was owned by a company, through a hospitality subsidiary, through a holding structure that Dante had never bothered to trace because the checks cleared and the instructions came through a regional coordinator named Dennis, who communicated mostly by text message, and who Dante had met in person exactly once. Dante had told Nena once, in front of 2 other staff members and a table of regular customers, that she was lucky to have this job, that there were 10 people who would do it better for less, that she should remember who made the schedule. Nena had gone to the kitchen and continued working. She had been doing this for 4 years. She had learned that some men require an audience for their authority, and the best way to reduce its effect was to deny them the reaction they were building toward. She made note of things. She kept her own record, not in a logbook, just in memory, in the way that people who cannot afford to write things down learn to hold them instead. She noted the dates tips were short, without explanation. She noted the times she was kept past her scheduled shift without overtime. She noted the morning Dante told the young dishwasher that he could be replaced by a machine and nobody would notice the difference. She did not say any of it out loud. She could not afford to. The Thursday the old man came in was a regular afternoon. The lunch rush had passed. 2 tables were still occupied. Mang Ernie with his rice and sinigang, and a pair of college students sharing an order of adobo. The fan wobbled. The display case glass had a smear on it that Nena had wiped 3 times, and that kept reappearing. The door opened. A gust of October air. The old man. She had never seen him before. She noticed, because she noticed everything. It was how she survived her job, that he paused just inside the door the way a person pauses when they are not sure they are welcome. Not physically uncertain, emotionally uncertain. Like someone who has forgotten, temporarily, what it feels like to simply enter a place and be there. He sat. He looked at the menu. He put it down. She brought him food. Dante's voice. Huwag mong pagsilbihan yan. She had already picked up the plate. At Nena. His voice was low but edged. Sinabi ko, sobrang naluto ng kusina, she said, without turning around. The kitchen made extra. She carried the plate to the table. Dante said nothing further. But the pen tapped the logbook once, twice, 3 times, and then stopped. The old man ate. Nena brought him a glass of water without being asked. She did not hover. She did not watch him the way people sometimes watch someone they have done a kindness for, waiting to be thanked. She went to Mang Ernie's table and refilled his rice and listened to 3 minutes of a story about his granddaughter's first word. When she returned to the old man's table, the food was gone. He was sitting with his hands flat on the plastic surface, looking at the middle distance with the expression of a man holding something in place. She knew that expression. She had worn it herself, in the alley behind the kitchen, on the phone with the hospital, on the bus ride home when the day had been the kind that could not be processed while it was still happening. She brought him a glass of water without being asked, and set it within reach, and walked away. 10 minutes later, he took out his wallet. Old leather, worn through at the fold. He counted what was inside with the careful deliberation of a man counting carefully because he does not know when he will count again. He placed a 50 peso bill on the table. The meal had cost nothing. Nena had paid for it herself, 80 pesos from her own tips, quietly, before Dante could begin the calculation. She picked up the bill. She walked to where he was pulling himself to his feet with the slow effort of someone whose joints have been negotiating with his body for years. Manong, she said. She held the 50 back out to him. Palaging libre ang pagkain kung kailangan mo. Food is always free if you need it. He looked at her. Something in his eyes sharpened, then softened, in the sequence that happens when a person recognizes something they have not seen in a long time. He did not take the bill. Salamat, he said. Just that. He walked out. Bong, the 19-year-old busboy clearing the table in the corner, watched him go. Then he watched Nena put the 50 pesos in her apron pocket with the expression of someone who has just spent something they needed and has decided not to think about what it cost. That evening, after close, Dante came to Nena at the end of the counter while she was rolling silverware into napkins for the next day. He set his logbook open on the counter in front of her. Anong ginawa mong yaon? What did you do today? She did not look up from the silverware. Nagsilbi ako ng pagkain. I served food. That is what I am here for. Sinabihan kita. I told you not to. Ang lalaki ay nagutom. Walang ibang nangyari. The man was hungry. Nothing more happened. Dante's pen moved across the logbook. She watched his hand write her name and the date and the words, unauthorized distribution of inventory. Warning, she rolled the next set of silverware. Ikatlong babala ito, he said. This is the third warning. Alam ko. I know. He closed the logbook. He picked it up. He looked at her with the satisfaction of a man who has been building something for a long time and believes he is almost finished. Pag-isipin mo kung ano ang mas mahalaga sa iyo, he said. Think about what matters more to you. Ang trabaho o ang pagiging mapagbigay sa mga estranyo, your job or your generosity to strangers. He walked to the back office. The door closed. Nena set down the silverware. She looked at the table where the old man had sat. The plastic surface was clean. The glass was back on the shelf. She picked up the silverware and kept rolling. The old man came back the next day. Same time, same table, same look at the menu and the same putting it down. Nena brought him food before he could decide not to order. This time she paid from her baon, the lunch she had packed herself, which she did not eat that day. He ate. He sat with his hands flat afterward. She brought water. She did not hover. On the third day, he spoke to her while she was clearing the next table. Ilang taon ka nang nagtatrabaho dito? How many years have you been working here? Apat na taon po, she said. 4 years. At ang bata sa litrato? He nodded toward the small photograph she had pinned to the pocket of her apron. Pio, 7 years old, in his school uniform, holding a drawing of a boat. Si Pio. Ang aking anak, my son. Walo na siya ngayon. He is 8 now. The man looked at the photograph for a long moment. Maganda ang ngiti niya, he said. He has a beautiful smile. Opo, Nena said. Yes, mana sa tatay niya. He got it from his father. She did not explain further. She carried the tray to the kitchen. When she came back, the old man had left. On the table was a folded 50-peso bill, the same denomination she had been returning to him all week, and beside it, something else, something small. A laminated card, the size of a playing card, worn at the edges, the laminate lifting slightly at one corner. On the front, a faded image of the Birhen ng Quezasay. On the back, handwriting in blue ink, faded but legible. Nena picked it up and read it. Selling, huwag kang titigil sa paggawa ng mabuti. Ang mabuting ginagawa mo ngayon ay titikim ng bunga sa hindi mo inaasahang oras. Selling, never stop doing good. The good you do today will bear fruit at the hour you least expect. She looked toward the door. The street outside was ordinary. Market traffic. A tricycle. 2 students with backpacks. She put the card carefully on the shelf near the display case, propped against the salt and pepper set, where she could see it from anywhere in the room. She did not know whose handwriting it was. She did not know who Celine was. She only knew that whoever had written those words had written them with the precision of someone putting something important into a small container, hoping it would survive the distance between 2 people. Dante saw the card that evening. He picked it up, read it, set it back down with the studied disinterest of a man who does not understand something and does not want to admit it. He did not say anything about it that day. The following Monday, he built his case. He had been building it for 3 weeks, dates, times, the cost of the food she had served without charge, cross-referenced with inventory records he had requested from the supply coordinator. He had also, quietly and efficiently, made 3 phone calls to other establishments in the area. A fast food place 2 blocks over, a bakery, a small restaurant on the highway, and had spoken to the hiring managers at each, describing an employee who had been documented for unauthorized inventory use and insubordination and could not be trusted around food supplies. He was thorough. He was methodical. He believed, at 45, that thoroughness was the most important quality in a manager, and he was not wrong about this, only about the use he was putting it to. On a Monday at 2 in the afternoon, with 3 customers in the carinderia, and Bong carrying a tray of dirty dishes from the back, Dante came to the counter where Nena was calculating the day's change. He set the logbook open on the counter. "Nena Buenaventura," he said, at a volume that the 3 customers could hear. "Dahil sa paulit-ulit na paglabag sa mga patakaran ng establishmento, unauthorized use of inventory, insubordination, and disregard for direct supervisor instruction, ikaw ay tinanggal ng trabaho. Simula ngayon." Due to repeated violations of establishment policy, unauthorized use of inventory, insubordination, and disregard for direct supervisor instruction, you are terminated, effective immediately. The carinderia went quiet. The customers looked at their plates. Mungerni, at his usual table, set down his spoon. Nena looked at the logbook. 3 weeks of her name, written in Dante's careful hand, with dates and amounts and the word unauthorized, repeated enough times to look like proof of something. She picked up her apron. She folded it, once, neatly, the way she always did. Because some things you do right even when everything else is falling apart. She set it on the counter. She took the prayer card from the shelf near the display case and put it in the pocket of her house dress. She walked out. Bong watched from the kitchen doorway. He set down his tray. He looked at Dante, who was writing something in the logbook without looking up. Bong walked to the back of the kitchen, untied his apron, took the packed lunch he had brought, rice and tuyo, wrapped in foil and tucked in a plastic bag, and went out the back door into the alley behind the carinderia. Nena was there, leaning against the wall with her hands at her sides and her face tilted slightly upward, the posture of a person trying to keep something from spilling over. Bong held out his lunch. He did not say anything. He just held it out, already turning back toward the door. She looked at the plastic bag, at Bong's face, 19 years old, nervous, already moving away so she could not refuse with eye contact. "Bong, uwi na pokio ate," he said. "Go home now." And he went back inside. She stood in the alley with the plastic bag in her hands and the October sun warm on her face and cried, not loudly, not dramatically, just the particular crying that happens when you have been holding something for too long and the hands finally open. She cried for 4 minutes. Then she wiped her face with the back of her hand. Then she walked to the bus stop. That afternoon she went to 4 establishments. 2 of them said they would check with the supervisor. 1 said the position had just been filled. The 4th, a small restaurant on the highway owned by a woman named Norma, who had been in business for 20 years, pulled Nena aside near the kitchen door and said, "Hija, I want to hire you. Nakita ko kung paano ka nagtatrabaho sa Kuyas, pero may tumawag. Kanina pa. I want to hire you. I've seen how you work at Kuyas." But someone called, just a while ago. Nena closed her eyes briefly. "Sinabi niya na hindi ka mapagkakatiwalaan sa inventory. He said you can't be trusted with inventory. Na tinanggal ka ng trabaho dahil sa pagnanakaw ng pagkain. That you were fired for stealing food." Nena opened her eyes. "Nagbigay ako ng pagkain sa isang gutom na matanda. I gave food to a hungry old man." Norma looked at her for a long moment. "Alam ko. I know. Pero hija, ang mga negosyante sa strip na ito, magkakasama kami." Pag sinabi ng isang supervisor na hindi mapagkakatiwalaan ang isang tao, the business owners on this strip, we know each other. When a supervisor says someone can't be trusted, she shook her head. She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Nena thanked her and walked to the bus stop. That evening, Pio was at the kitchen table with a worksheet he had been working on for 40 minutes. He showed it to Nena when she came in. The answers were not wrong. They were right, arrived at through a route that was longer and more individual than the worksheet expected. The worksheet did not have space for individual routes. Mama, he said, and gusto ko ay nagsabing dapat ko itong gawin ng mas mabilis. My teacher says I should do this faster. Tama ka, Nena said. She sat beside him. Pero ang sagot mo ay tama. Ang daan papunta doon ang sayo. Your answers are right. The path to get there is yours. Pio considered this. He put the pencil down. Kailan ko mapupunta sa espesyal na eskwela? When will I be able to go to the special school? Malapit na, Nena said. She made dinner from what was in the cabinet. Rice. The canned sardines she kept for the end of the week. A vegetable from the market that morning. She called it Bayani dinner, hero dinner, and told Pia that Bayani ate sardines because it kept them strong and quick. He ate 2 servings. She ate less than she was hungry for and did not tell him. After he fell asleep, she sat at the kitchen table with the tin can from behind the rice cooker and counted what was in it. 11,200 pesos. She needed 70,000 for enrollment. She needed more than that for what came after. She put the money back. She picked up the prayer card from the table where she had set it when she came in. She read it again, the handwriting she did not recognize. The name, Siling. The words about fruit at the hour you least expect. She put the card on the windowsill where the light would hit it in the morning. She did not sleep much. But she did not cry again. She had used the 4 minutes in the alley. That was enough for now. 2 miles away, in a room at the Batangas City Hotel where he had been staying for 3 weeks, the man named Mang Saleng sat at a small desk. He had showered. He had eaten properly. The first real meal he had ordered from room service. A full dinner. Something he had not done since arriving, because eating alone in a hotel room felt like an admission that he was alone in a way he was not ready to admit. He had a phone on the table and a glass of water and the worn canvas bag on the floor beside the chair. He opened the bag. He took out what was inside, not engine parts as the smell suggested. A leather portfolio, a tablet, a charging cable. The tools of a man who had been pretending, for 3 weeks, to be a man without tools. He was not Mang Salang, he was Celestino Andrada. He was 63 years old. He had started with a single hardware store on this street 40 years ago, with money borrowed from his mother-in-law, and a conviction that the province needed good building materials and a supplier who would not cheat on quantities. The hardware store became a supply chain. The supply chain became a construction division. The construction division became real estate. The real estate became logistics. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, because Ligaya had said Saleng, people need to eat, there was a hospitality division, 12 carinderias across Region 4, designed to serve the people who actually built things, who drove the trucks, who taught the children, who ran the market stalls, designed to be real places, not fancy places, real ones. Ligaya had died 8 months ago, a brain aneurysm, fast and complete, on a Sunday morning when she had been on the phone with her sister and then was not. After the funeral, Celestino had stopped. He did not stop abruptly. He stopped the way a very large machine stops. with a great deal of momentum and a long, grinding deceleration. He had meetings that he attended, and signed documents that he signed, and answered emails that his assistant drafted. But the part of him that had been running for 40 years, the part that got up at 5 in the morning because there were things to build, and people to pay, and problems to solve, that part had quietly shut down. He had found, in her nightstand, the prayer card, the one she had given him 40 years ago, the morning he opened the first hardware store. She had pressed it into his palm and said the words she always said, "The good you do today will bear fruit at the hour you least expect." He had been carrying it every day since. He had stopped carrying it after she died, because carrying it felt like pretending she was still speaking to him, and he was not ready for the grief that lived underneath that pretense. He had left it at Nina's table on an impulse he did not fully understand until he was already outside. He understood it better now. He had left it because she reminded him of someone, not physically, in the quality of her attention, in the way she brought water without being asked and then walked away so you could have it privately, in the way she folded her apron before she left a job that had just been taken from her. Ligaya had been a waitress, once, at a carinderia in Batangas City, 40 years ago. She had served a young hardware store owner who was too proud to say he had not eaten since the day before. She had brought him rice and pinakbet and said the kitchen made extra. He had left everything in his wallet, 11 pesos, and she had pressed it back into his hand. He had married her the following year and built everything else after. He picked up his phone. He called Dennis, his regional coordinator. "Dennis, I need the operational records for Kuya's Carinderia in Batangas City. Payroll records, the supervisor's conduct log, all complaint documentation, tip distribution records. I need everything by tomorrow morning." A pause. "Sir? May problema po ba? Is there a problem?" "Oh," Celestino said. "Yes, may malaking problema. There is a serious problem." He paused. "At bago malaman ni Dante Marquez kung sino ang nagtatanong, siguruhin mong wala siyang babaguhin sa anumang record. And before Dante Marquez finds out who is asking, make sure he changes nothing in any record." He put the phone down. He reached into the canvas bag. He took out the leather portfolio. He opened his tablet. He had been 63 years old for 8 months, and he had spent those 8 months not answering emails. He answered 17 that night. He sent 4 directives to his operations division. He made 1 call to his personal legal counsel. Then he ordered room service, rice, paksao na bangus, and a bowl of sinigang, and ate all of it. Sitting at the small desk, in the warm light of a lamp that was too bright, and a room that was too quiet, thinking about a woman who had pressed food on him when he could not admit he needed it, and another woman who had done the same thing 40 years ago, and the 40 years between them that he had somehow managed to stop believing in. He took the prayer card from the desk where it had been sitting since he came in. He read it. Then he put it in his breast pocket. "Ang mabuting ginagawa mo ngayon ay titikim ng bunga sa hindi mo inasahang oras. The good you do today will bear fruit at the hour you least expect." He had been the one to receive that fruit 40 years ago. Now, it was his turn. The following Monday at 10 in the morning, a white service vehicle with the Andrada Group logo on the door pulled up in front of Kuya's Carinderia. 2 people stepped out. Dennis, the regional coordinator, and a woman in a blazer who was Celestino's legal counsel, Atty, Maritis Cruz. Then Celestino stepped out. He was not wearing the sando and the rubber slippers. He wore a plain polo, dark slacks, leather shoes. The bucket hat was in the bag. His hair was combed. He was the same man, same broad hands, same weathered face, but the context had changed, and context is most of what people see. He walked through the door of Kuya's Carinderia, Dante was behind the counter. He looked up. His eyes moved from Dennis, whom he recognized with the particular alertness of a man who has been managing upward carefully, to Atty. Cruz, to the tablet in Dennis's hands, to the man he did not recognize standing between them. Magandang umaga, Celestino said. Good morning. Sino ang manager dito? Who is the manager here? Dante straightened. Ako po. That would be me. Dante Marquez, floor supervisor. Maaari ko po kayong matulungan. May I help you? Oh, Celestino said. He sat down at the table in the back corner. His table, the one with the plastic chair and the view of the street. Umupo ka. Sit down. Dante sat down opposite him. His hands were on the table. His eyes moved from Celestino to Dennis and back. Ang pangalan ko ay Celestino Andrada, Celestino said. My name is Celestino Andrada. Ang Andrada Group ang may-ari ng Cuyes Carinderia, pati na ang labing as ang iba pang katulad nito sa Region 4. The Andrada Group owns Cuyes Carinderia and 11 others like it across Region 4. Dante's face did something complex. The color in it rearranged. Nandito ako noong nakaraang tatlong linggo, Celestino continued. Hindi kita nakikilala, at hindi mo rin nararapat na makilala ako. Pero nakita kita. I was here for the past 3 weeks. You didn't recognize me, and you had no reason to. But I saw you. He placed his hands flat on the plastic table, the same gesture Nena would have recognized, that he had used every afternoon for 3 weeks. Nakita ko ang isang empleyado na pinagsilbihan ng pagkain ang isang taong nagugutom kahit may dagdag na gastos sa sarili niya at pinarusahan mo siya para doon. I saw an employee serve food to a hungry person at additional cost to herself, and you punished her for it. Dante opened his mouth. Nakita ko rin ang logbook, Celestino said. I also saw the logbook. Atty. Cruz opened her tablet and set it on the table. On the screen, photographed pages of the logbook, Nena's name recurring across 3 weeks. Tatlong beses na nagbabala para sa parehong bagay. Isang pagkain na ibinigay niya mula sa kanyang sariling bulsa. 3 written warnings for the same act. 1 meal, given from her own pocket. He looked at Dante, at saka, and then natawagan ang bawat establishmento sa loob ng 3 kilometro para masigurado na hindi siya makakakuha ng trabaho kahit saan. You called every establishment within 3 kilometers to make sure she could not find work anywhere. Dante's hands went flat on the table. Ginawa mo yon, Celestino said, para mapabilis ang pagtatayo ng isang restaurant na gusto mo. Para maalis ang isang empleyado na ginawa kang itsura na malay. Para maprotektahan ang sarili mo. You did that to accelerate the closure of a restaurant you wanted to reshape. To remove an employee who made you look wrong. To protect yourself. He paused. Ang Cuyes Carinderia ay hindi ginawa para dito. Cuyes Carinderia was not built for this. Itinayo ito para sa mga taong nagtatrabaho, para sa mga construction worker, mga driver, mga guro, mga magulang na may isang oras lang para kumain bago bumalik sa trabaho. Para sa mga taong kailangan ng tunay na pagkain sa tunay na presyo mula sa taong nagmamalasakit. It was built for working people, for construction workers, drivers, teachers, parents with 1 hour to eat before returning to work, for people who need real food at a real price from someone who cares. He looked at Dante steadily. Hindi iyon ikaw, he said quietly. That is not you. Tinanggal ka ng trabajo, Dante, simula ngayon. You are terminated. Effective immediately. Dante stared at him. Ati, Cruz ay magpapaliwanag ng proseso, Celestino said. Wala kang kailangang sabihin ngayon. Ati, Cruz will explain the process. You do not need to say anything now. He stood. He looked at Bong, who was standing near the kitchen door with his tray in his hands and his eyes very wide. Ikaw, Celestino said. You, ang pangalan mo? Your name? Bong Po, Bong said. Ernesto Salonga. Celestino looked at him for a moment. Nalaman ko na ibinigay mo ang iyong tanghalian sa dating empleyado ng pinaalas siya. I was told you gave your lunch to the former employee when she was let go. Salamat, thank you. Bong blinked. Wala naman pong, it was just my baon, sir. It was just my lunch, sir. Iyon lang ang kailangan mong ibigay, Celestino said. That was all that was needed. He walked to the door. He stopped. He turned back. Saan nakatira si Nena Buenaventura? He asked Dennis. Where does Nena Buenaventura live? Dennis checked his tablet. He gave the address. Celestino walked to his vehicle. Nena was hanging laundry when she heard the knock on the gate. She looked through the gap in the wooden slats and saw a white service vehicle with a logo she did not recognize, and a man she did recognize. The man from the carinderia, the man she had been feeding, the man who had left the prayer card on the table. She opened the gate. Manong? She looked at the vehicle, at Dennis, at the woman in the blazer. Ano, Nena, Celestino said. Maaari ba akong makipag-usap sa iyo? May I speak with you? She brought them inside. She made coffee because it was what you did. She set cups on the kitchen table, the same table where she had counted 11,000 pesos from a tin can, and they sat down. Celestino wrapped his hands around the cup. The same gesture, warm ceramic instead of a plastic glass of water, but the same gesture. He said his name. He said what the name meant. He watched her face process it the way faces process large, rearranging information. Not instantly, but in layers, each one landing a beat after the last. She looked at the prayer card on the windowsill. Iyon, she said quietly. That sa logbook nito, Ligaya? Is that from Ligaya? He looked at the card. Oh, yes, ang aking asawa. Namatay siya walong buwan na ang nakakaraan. My wife. She died 8 months ago. Nena was quiet for a moment. Then, pasensya na po. I am sorry. He nodded. He picked up the coffee and did not drink it right away. Ligaya ay nagtatrabaho noon sa isang karinderya, he said. Ligaya used to work in a karinderya. Sa Batangas City, 40 taon na ang nakakaraan. Dumating ako isang hapon. Wala akong pera. Hindi ako kumakain. Naglagay siya ng pagkain sa mesa at sinabi, sobra ang naluto ng kusina. Maubos lang. She placed food on the table and said, the kitchen made extra. It will just go to waste. He looked at Nena. Nakilala mo ba kung saan nanggaling ang sinabi mo? Do you know where that came from? Nena stared at him. Ikakasal ko siya kinabukasan, he said. I married her the following year, at itinayo ko ang lahat ng ito kasama siya, and I built everything else with her. He set the cup down. Anyone kita ng prayer card niya, he said. Dahil nang makita-kita ang paraan ng iyong pagseserbisyo, ang pag-iingat na ginagawa mo, naramdaman ko ang parehong bagay na naramdaman ko 40 taon na ang nakakaraan. I left you her prayer card, because when I saw you, the way you served, the care you took, I felt the same thing I felt 40 years ago. He reached into the breast pocket of his polo. He took out an envelope and placed it on the table. Ito ang enrollment at 3 taon na tuition para sa espesyal na paralan ni Pio, he said. This is the enrollment and 3 years of tuition for Pio's specialist school. Dennis ay makikipag-ugnayan sa administrasyon sa Lunes. Dennis will be in contact with the administration on Monday. Nena looked at the envelope. She did not open it immediately. She looked at it the way you look at something you have been moving toward for so long that arriving takes a moment to believe. Then her hands went to her face. She did not cry the way she had cried in the alley. She cried differently. The way a person cries when something that has been wrong for a very long time is being made right. The relief larger than the grief it is resolving. Celestino did not say it was okay. He did not try to make the moment smaller. He sat across from her and waited, the way she had waited across from him, and let her feel the full weight of what it meant to open an envelope and know your child will be all right. When she raised her head, he said, "Gusto ko magalok sa iyo ng position bilang manager ng Kuya's Karinderya." I would like to offer you the position of manager of Kuya's Karinderya. At ng lahat na aming karinderya kung saan mo gustong magsimula ang paraan ng pagtatrabaho, ang kultura, ang mga patakaran, nais kung matayo mo yon. And at all our karinderyas, wherever you want to start, the way of working, the culture, the policies, I want you to build that. Nena looked at him. Hindi ako nagtapos ng kolehiyo. I did not finish college. Ligaya ay hindi rin, Celestino said. Neither did Ligaya. Pero alam niya kung paano i-treat ang tao na parang tao. But she knew how to treat people like people. Iyon ang pinaka-importante sa trabahong ito. That is the most important thing in this work. Nena was quiet for a moment. She thought about Pio at the kitchen table with the worksheet. She thought about the tin can behind the rice cooker. She thought about Bong handing her his lunch in the alley without a word and turning back toward the door before she could refuse. She thought about 11,000 pesos and a gap so large it had stopped feeling like a number and started feeling like a permanent condition. She thought about the prayer card on the windowsill. Ang mabuting ginagawa mo ngayon ay titikim ng bunga sa hindi mo inaasahang oras. The good you do today will bear fruit at the hour you least expect. Opo, she said. Yes, tatanggapin ko. I accept. Celestino picked up his coffee. He drank it slowly. He looked out the window at the clothesline, at Pio's school uniform drying in the October light. Isang bagay pa, he said. One more thing. Ang Kuya's Karinderya, gusto kong palitan ng pangalan. I want to change the name. Nena looked at him. Ligaya's, he said. He did not explain. She did not ask him to. In the months that followed, Ligaya's Karinderya became what Kuya's had always been meant to be. The name went up on a Tuesday, hand-painted on a new piece of marine plywood, the letters in warm yellow on a green background, the paint clean and even and not yet faded by the sun. Below the name, in smaller letters, Lahat ay maligayang dumating. All are welcome. Nena managed the floor the way she had worked it, with patience, with attention, with the understanding that every person who came through the door was carrying something you could not see. She hired 2 women from the barangay who needed work. She started a policy, quiet, not posted anywhere, just practiced, that nobody who was hungry would be turned away. She told the new staff, Kung may dumating na gutom, pakain mo. Kung may nagtatanong kung sino ang magbabayad, sabihin mo na ang kusina ay nagluto ng sobra. If someone comes in hungry, feed them. If anyone asks who will pay, tell them the kitchen made extra. The Sunday community meal began in the 2nd month, a full spread, free, served on real plates. First week, 14 people. By month 3, over 40. A group of construction workers who had been eating in shifts because they couldn't all afford a meal at the same time now ate together at the long table by the window, which Nena had extended with a 2nd table pushed end to end. Pio started his new school in January. The first week, he called his mother from the school's landline during the lunch break and said, Mama, may teacher ako na naghihintay kung kailan ko maitatapos. Hindi nagbibilang no oras. Mama, I have a teacher who waits for me to finish, who doesn't count the minutes. Nena held the phone with both hands and did not say anything for a moment. "Magaling na magaling ka, anak," she said. "You are doing so well." Celestino came to the carinderia once a week. Same table, black coffee. He sat and read sometimes, or simply sat, which is also something. Bong, now the senior busboy and in his first year of a business management program he had enrolled in using the scholarship Celestino had established for Ligaya's staff, brought his coffee without being asked and without hovering. Celestino kept every drawing Pio brought him on his visits, the boats, the sea creatures, the one detailed rendering of a carinderia with a yellow sign and people at every table. He had them in a drawer in his office in Batangas City, next to the copy of the prayer card, Ati. Cruz had helped him laminate freshly. He still carried the original in his breast pocket. He had taken it back from Nena's windowsill the day she accepted the position, and she had let him take it back, understanding without explanation that it needed to stay with him for reasons she did not need to fully know. One afternoon in December, Pio came to the carinderia after school. He sat at Celestino's table and showed him a drawing he had made in class, a detailed scene of a man on a motorcycle arriving at a carinderia, and a woman inside and the door open wide. Under the drawing, in careful block letters, "Ang araw na nagbago ang lahat." The day everything changed. Celestino looked at the drawing for a long time. "Paano mo nalaman?" he asked the boy. "How did you know?" Pio considered this with the thoroughness of a child who does not rush conclusions. "Sinabi ni Mama," he said. "Mama told me. At saka, nakita ko sa mukha niya. And also, I could see it on her face." "Anong nakita mo?" "What did you see?" Pio thought about it. "Na hindi na siya natatakot," he said. "That she is no longer afraid." Celestino folded the drawing carefully. He put it in his breast pocket, next to the prayer card. He looked out the window at Batangas City, the traffic in the market stalls and the construction crane visible above, the buildings and all the ordinary motion of a place full of people, building things and carrying things and moving through their lives with. The particular combination of effort and hope, that is what a provincial city looks like from the inside. He thought about Ligaya. He thought about a hardware store that had become a supply chain, that had become a construction division, that had become real estate and logistics and 12 carinderias. All of it beginning the afternoon, a young woman had set a plate of food in front of him without being asked, and said the kitchen made extra, and pressed 11 pesos back into his palm. He thought about what it meant that the words she had written on a prayer card 40 years ago had traveled through his breast pocket and out onto a table in a carinderia, and through another woman's hands, and back to him, still true, still legible, the fruit still arriving. "Ang mabuting ginagawa mo ngayon ay titikim ng bunga sa hindi mo inasahang oras." The carinderia smelled of paksiw and garlic rice and coffee and the particular warmth of a room where the door is always open. The ceiling fan wobbled on its third rotation with the sound of a card in a bicycle wheel. It had always wobbled. Nina had asked the maintenance man to look at it twice. He had said it was fine. It just made that sound. She had decided it was the carinderia's way of reminding you it was alive. Before I end this story, I'd like to leave you with this. Nena Buenaventura fed a hungry stranger from her own pocket, knowing it would cost her, and knowing it was right anyway. She did not do it because she knew who he was. She did not do it because she expected anything in return. She did it because he was hungry, and she was there, and her hands knew what to do. Ligaya Andrada did the same thing 40 years earlier, in the same city, for a different hungry stranger, with the same rough hands and the same hollow eyes, and that act built a company, and a marriage, and 12 carinderias, and a scholarship fund, and a boy who could now go to a school where the teacher waits for him to finish, without counting the minutes. This is what the prayer card said. The good you do today will bear fruit at the hour you least expect. Nena did not know the hour. She did not plan for it. She served the food and pressed the 50 back and walked to the next table. That was all. But the good she did today bore fruit at the hour she least expected. The way it always does, if you do not stop doing it. If this story moved you, if you have ever given something you could not afford to give, and found later that the giving was the beginning of something, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and we will see you in our next story.